listen, guys. Shay convinced me for like months and months to quit my job and to just go full time. There's so much more money in it. But he didn't tell me there's so much more taxes too. Let me just say that, okay? Because god damn.
Listen. All right, I got intro music, baby. This is Shay Omasori, and this is the first official episode of the Boothish podcast. And on today's episode, I've got a very good friend of mine. His name is Minh Nguyen. What's going on, man?
Dang, I hear my fan out there. I hear my fan.
Yeah. You weren't ready for that type of intro today, were you?
No, I appreciate you making that custom intro for me.
Oh, listen, I got a few things custom in here actually today. Like I think it's gonna be a really interesting show. For those of you who may or may not know, Minh is the owner and founder of Keopix. Most people who know who you are know the basics, but we're gonna get into the weeds a little bit about how you got your first couple of clients, how you grew your business to 6 figures, and how you eventually grew it to a seven-figure photo booth empire. Man, how you been, my man?
Been good. No, I lied. I've been horrible. You know, COVID got us all, and just kind of starting back up back in August, and just jumping right back on board. Now, completely busy for the past 2-3 months, just like event after event after event, and multiple events like stocked on to each other. So very busy as of right now, which is good.
Well, exactly. I mean, typically when people ask me, right, you know, how I'm feeling and all this stuff, and, you know, you can imagine what everybody is going through on a day-to-day basis. But at the end of the day, they're first world problems. If you're busy, these are good things.
Yeah, definitely first world problems. Still got a roof over my head, you know, got food on the table. So definitely first world problems.
Man, before we dive into it, I got to ask you, whose name did you get tattooed on your arm?
I got Big Daddy Shay right over here. You remember when we used to call you, what do we call? You remember back? Did you? Was that your sound effect?
Yeah, man, listen, I got a whole soundboard here, man. You thought I came here to play? Shay Daddy, I think that's the name that you're looking for. Yes.
Yeah, Big Daddy Shay says right here in these little dots. You can't really see it, but it's the top that counts. So
listen, that's beautiful. I can't wait until you take it off so that we can post it on Instagram and you can make sure you tag me in the post.
Yeah, I'll try. I'll do that.
You know, most people who know you already kind of know the basics of how you got started into the industry. We'll do a brief recap, right? But you started off originally in Texas. You had a booth company out there. You flew out here, settled down here for a little bit, started up with your with Insta Photo Booth over here, and ultimately had one location running here. And then you flew and went back to Austin and started kind of growing things from there.
Man, it's like you know me.
I mean, a little bit.
You know me so well.
I mean, listen, if someone's getting their name tattooed on if someone's getting my name tattooed on them, I feel like I should know a few things about them, right?
That's pretty good. But with the photo booth network being the way that it is now, there's so many new people that I have no idea who they are. They don't know who I am.
Man, you are a nobody to them at this point.
Exactly. They don't know me. I don't know what I do. But yeah, you're right.
We're here to kind of school some of these people on what you've been up to, help a lot of people who are getting started on their journey to getting to their first customer, right? So I guess I'd like to start there with you, right? With when you first got started with your photo booth business, how did you actually get your customer number one? What did that look like?
Man, it's probably not a good tactic, but it's going to be a tactic of hustlers, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you're a hustler. You got to do what you got to do to stay alive. So let me tell you what I did for my guerrilla tactics. Okay,
let's talk.
Brand new. I had just started in Austin. I was going to bring it over to Boston because I knew I was moving. Made my company within like a month, and in Austin, they had Groupon at the time was really banging around 2012 or whatever time it was. And so what I did was I went on Groupon to look at other photo booth companies because there are other photo booth companies on there. At the point in time where Groupon kind of started that with photo booth companies, it started getting a little bit more popular. So I started looking on the photo booth companies' Facebook, Facebook, like their page. And for some reason, some of these companies that would tell the customers on Groupon, hey, contact us on our Facebook page or comment, and we will reply to you, right? So now I'm looking on their page, I'm seeing who's interested in a photo booth. And so I go and I contact them directly from my competitor's page, because I know they're inquiring about a photo booth. So I contact them directly and say, "Hey, I could give you this price, and I could do it better." And doing that, literally doing that for a week, I booked 7 events, got myself enough money to pay back all the stuff that I put my money into to make my photo booths, and did those events right before I moved to Boston.
So that's how you got your first 8. So when you bought your booth or when you were building it, right? However you
Yeah,
got your first booth, you weren't even thinking about customers at that time.
right. That's correct.
How did that idea come up to your head? Like, where did you get that idea from? Because I've heard of like some Groupon hustles. That's not one of them.
Yeah. So I mean, the other Groupon
No,
hustle is
wait. Let's
getting.
not get to the other Groupon hustle yet.
Okay, all right. We'll keep that a secret.
Where did you come up with this Groupon hustle from?
The thing is, you have to think about it in the standpoint of how are you going to get customers that are interested in a photo booth, right? The only way you can do that, SEO, that takes months and months.
And SEO probably wasn't even on your mind at this point, I assume.
SEO is definitely not on my mind.
Okay.
I just barely made a website, barely got a name, barely got any of that.
But what made you say, hey, let me go on Groupon and find these Facebook pages and respond?
Well, Groupon was booming at that point. In the early stages of 2012, it was booming. That's what I used to look at because that's where I buy stuff from, like massages and all sorts of stuff like that, or things to do. So that's how I knew to jump on there and just to see, right? I didn't know if these people were going to contact me back or not because it's directly through Facebook. It's their Facebook. So it's my personal Facebook contacting their personal Facebook saying, hey, I have a company, book with me. I'll do it for $50 cheaper than what you can get it for. And if you think about it, if they went through Groupon, that means that the company, the photo booth company, only gets 50% of that, if that, right? So because I'm actually going in there and connecting with them directly, and I'm not using Groupon, I get 100% of that profit.
So when you were going on Facebook and answering these questions, like what type of questions did you see people asking that you were chiming in on?
They were asking for quotes.
Mm.
And that's when I was like, bingo, I'm going to go in and I'm going to give them my quote. Because I already knew their prices, so I can undercut them.
And you went in to comment because you saw that there was no activity from these companies on their own Facebook page? Is that what it was?
No, I just went. I mean, I just went in and like I would kind of. Well, this is in the span of a week, right? So I would see that they would comment and there's no response, and I would just basically I wouldn't comment on there. I would just private message them.
Okay, all right. That makes a whole lot more sense. So I heard your, the interview that you did with Catalina. That was the first time that I heard of you, of that being, something that you were doing. And I was like, wow, that is super ballsy to go on someone's Facebook page and say, hey, listen, here's my rates. But I mean, thinking back like 10 years, right? I tend to say a lot of photo booth owners are kind of like slow when it comes to like adopting technology. And definitely at that time, I don't think that they were as active on social media as they, could have been. Right. So I thought that you were like right on their Facebook page, like, hey, these are my rates. But you were sliding into their DMs of people who were obviously expressing that they were interested in someone's photo booth. And I guess like, so if I had to like think about that in terms of how somebody could take that same approach today, you could actually still do that same type of approach, right? If you see people who are posting on Instagram, especially as we, see people doing things with 360s.
Uh
If
huh.
you, I see people, and I'm sure you probably do as well, but I see
Yep.
people like asking for quotes, or hey, can I book you guys? How can I book you guys? You could actually still do exactly how you could take the technique that you started off with 10 years ago and still apply that to this day for someone who's looking to get in, get their first few
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah. Yeah. You certainly can, because it's all public. It's not like they're doing it privately and I'm like sneaking into it, but they're asking them publicly. It's like if you go to a hashtag 360, right? You go 360 hashtag and look at a post and see people asking, "Hey, how much can we do this for?" You can just directly just contact them personally and be like, "Hey, we do 360s or we do photo booth. If you want a quote, this is, just contact us here. We can give you a quote, or this is my pricing, blah blah blah." Same concept, just a little bit more elbow grease to go in there and actually do that legwork, because it's a lot of work for just one person that you don't even know if they're just kicking tires or not.
That is, then I mean, and we all know the game, right? You get a lot of people who express interest, but they don't necessarily get to the finish line. But I think for someone, again, if there's really no budget, you've got more time than you've got money. That's probably one of like the best ways to still go in and get your first couple of customers. So so it sounds like you were able to get your first 8 or so customers from that particular method.
Yeah, I got about 7 or 8, and then on the very last customer of mine, yeah, there was a DJ, and he wanted to buy my setup, and I'm like, okay, I didn't want to bring this with me, so I'm just gonna sell it to him. Boom, next day, sold it to the guy, and guess what? That guy is now one of the biggest photo booth companies here in Austin.
Can we get a name? I've heard you say that before, but can we get a name?
Yeah, his name is. Hold on a second. His company name is My Photo Booth is the bomb.com.
Well, hey, listen, let's give it up for myphotoboothisthe.bomb.com. Out there
Yeah,
tearing it up in
he
Austin.
knows. And the funny thing is that same photo booth that I built, my very first photo booth, was sold to somebody else, right? And then that person contacted me just randomly. I had no idea who they were, and they were like, "Hey, we are looking for a photo booth." This is when I sold photo booths, and she was like, "Hey, we're looking for another photo booth." I was like, "Oh, which one do you currently have?" Takes a picture and sends it to me, and I'm like, "That's my very first photo booth that I sold a long time ago."
And when they contacted you, they didn't even know that that was. Did they know that that was yours?
Nope, had no idea.
Look at how everything comes full circle.
I know.
So you came out here. So you and I say out here. So you moved out to Boston. You were in the New England area.
Yeah, so let me say I was working full time. I was full time in school, and then I wanted to start this photo booth company as a side gig, right? And obviously that was full time too. And then on top of that, I knew that I was moving to Boston, and so my corporate job, which was I was working at Apple, making like 55,000 a year or something like that. I was working for Apple, and they decided to let me work from home. And this is kind of how Apple got started with people working at home. Like I was one of their first groups of people to allow that.
Pre-COVID. Look at that.
Pre-COVID, 2012, 2012-ish is kind of when it happened. Um, well, working from home, but not in the area of where the office is, like in a completely different area. Um, but yeah, I was full time there, full time school. I had to change everything over to do like internships in New York. So when I moved to Boston, I was still working full time at Apple. I was still doing an internship in New York, and I was still doing photo boothing.
You had the luxury of getting your business starting off the ground with the security of a full time paycheck. What were your rates looking like for maybe like 3 or 4 hours at that point?
So I think I started off around 3 hours for like $600, $700, something like that. Just given because my photo booth was was not it wasn't like a lollipop style open air kind of situation, right? It was an actual, you go and you sit in kind of booth. But it was, but I made it, and it was very compressed, to where you can compress it together and put it into a back of a SUV, right? But it was around the $600, $700, 3 4 hours, and to me at that time I was like, dang, I'm getting a lot of money for that, you know, just doing it on the weekends, and after a while I started making more than my full-time job.
So hold on. Before we even get there, right? So you were charging $600 to $700 for a 3 hour gig. What were some of your competitors doing in comparison to that?
That's kind of what I was seeing on Groupon at that point in time. Was like 5 hours for for like $500 or $700 or so. So, but the thing was, like, their setup was just crap, like wires all over the place. It looked so cheesy. It looked just looked like shit, basically.
Okay, so your rates were kind of similar to what you were seeing on Groupon, but you weren't getting the Groupon hit because Groupon's not in your pockets, right? So for anybody who's not familiar with the Groupon model, let me just kind of explain it really quickly. To promote on Groupon, let's say your prices were your price was $600 for a 3 hour event. Groupon would want you to advertise your rate on Groupon for $300, right? So it'd be 50% off. And then Groupon would have you split that $300 between you and them. So at the end of the day, that 3 hour event that you're doing, you're really getting paid $150. How are you separating yourself, making yourself stand out from these other people, even though your pricing was in line with them?
Um, Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that their pricing was, I think it was like 500 for three hours or so. So what I did was a more of a psychological approach to it. I would tell them that, hey, our photo booths cost 700, but we'll discount it for you for 500. Does that make sense? So in the eyes of a consumer, if you buy something that's $500 versus something that's $700 that's on sale for $500, you're gonna want the thing that's higher price that's on sale, because in your mind, it should be better.
Yes. And I mean, you're also playing to the fact that everybody wants a deal, right? Nobody wants to feel like a sucker paying full price for something. And I mean, we see it all the time if we're paying attention when we're at the stores. Everything is always marked down, 20% off sales, but these 20% sales go on forever. And you think that you're getting a deal, but they've really marked it up in order to mark it down.
Right. So I think that's what I did, to try to meet them or make it a little bit cheaper than them, to make them think that my products were more superior, even though I had no idea what their products were.
Yeah.
So it's more of a psychological kind of aspect to it.
So at what point did you would you say you hit six figures in your business? Was this before or after you went full time?
This is definitely after I went full time that I did, um, because I was making like $600-700, or anywhere between $500 to $700 per event, but doing it on the weekends just by myself. So I would make, and I'm talking about almost every weekend, to where my girlfriend, at that time, we were fighting because I had no time off. I was working every day basically, right? But life of a hustler, you're always working 24/7. But it did take a while for it to hit that, but it only hit that once I went full time. Once I committed to it.
Once you committed. All right. So let's talk about you committing. And as we talk about you committing, I don't think that there's any piece that can better explain it to us than this clip right here, right? This conversation you had with Catalina when you talked about how you went full time.
Started making more money than my actual job, and I was scared to stop working for Apple because of the benefits and the security of having a job, but I felt like it wasn't really going anywhere. So then I met this guy which is one of my best friends in the photo booth industry, which is Shay with Pig Social, and he convinced me to get out of my corporate job and to go full time. He was like, it's going to be the best decision you ever make. And then 2000, I think it was 2012, no, 2014, I think. Yeah, 2014 is when I made the jump to where I quit my corporate and went full time. Never looked back since.
Yes, Shay. Yes, Shay. You did tell me, and you finally convinced me. Shay, listen, guys. Shay convinced me for like months and months to quit my job and to just go full time. There's so much more money in it. But he didn't tell me there's so much more taxes too. Let me just say that, okay? Because god damn, I paid so much in taxes, but listen, I've made a lot of money. So thank you, Shay, for changing my life. Sometimes you have to take the risk in order to get the rewards.
In all seriousness, right? Like, so when I heard that podcast, I mean, you did that podcast a year ago with Catalina, and I didn't listen to it until recently. And when I got to that part, I honestly paused, right? And I was like, and I heard that, and it hit me in my heart, right? And I'm gonna tell you why. I don't love the photo booth industry. There's not anything like in particular that draws me to the photo booth industry. But what I love is entrepreneurship. Being in the photo booth industry has given me the opportunity to work with entrepreneurs. When I think back to those conversations that we used to have, and to hear that come out of you, and for me to again be able to look back and see how I've always kind of like pushed people into entrepreneurship, especially when I've seen that they had the capacity and the ability to do it, and then to see where where you were then and then where you are now, like it really brightens my heart, man. So
Man,
shout outs to you.
Well, thanks, Shay.
No problem, man. No problem. I will take my my thanks in a 10% equity stake in Keopix. Payable.
Hey, I'll tell you, had I not gone to the photo booth, have I not gone full time, wouldn't have been no yo props, wouldn't have been none these men booths, wouldn't have been a lot of stuff. So
all right, so you jumped into full-time photo booth entrepreneurship around 2014. Talk to me about the challenges. How did that look different for you than when you were working part-time on your booth?
Full-time challenges means to try to figure out a way to get consistent money in, right? To try to find a way to have people to contact you to inquire about, doing events and stuff, to get repeat customers, because we all have to pay bills and stuff, so got to figure out a way to keep people coming.
And how did you figure that out?
Man, I spent so much money on ads. I've done, let me see, I've done ads, I've done Facebook ads, I've done print ads where you mail it out. I spent a lot of money on advertising. The best money that I've spent, however, is going to be in SEO, search engine optimization.
You started spending money on SEO shortly after you went full time?
Yeah. After I went full time is whenever I started doing SEO. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. And how much would you say you were spending on SEO at that point?
Let me say I started out doing a little bit because I didn't understand SEO. I didn't understand what a powerful tool it was. But I think I started off like paying somebody like $500 per month, and it started bringing it in a little bit, just a little bit, right?
Hold on. So just to put things in perspective, right? So people kind of have a timeline. So you're making about, let's say, roughly 60,000 a year at this point, right? Running things by yourself, and now like you're starting to put some money back into your business, and you're spending about $500 a month on SEO because you realize that you need to come up in the search engines, right?
And then after a while, after I started making more money, once you get more money, obviously you want to spend more money in advertising to get more money. It's like you got to spend money to make money. It's just how it is, right? I think the most I started spending was about $2,000 a month just for SEO.
Okay.
Yeah. The thing with SEO is it's a little sketchy, right? Because you don't know if it's going to work, or you don't know if it's working for quite some time. And the thing is, if it doesn't work, then, it's kind of part of the process. They can't say, well, you didn't pay me enough or anything like that. If it just doesn't work, it's something that takes time. Any advertising at all, spend your money on SEO, or try to find a company that understands it, or that you trust, rather, not just like somebody that's just going to send you reports. You don't even know how those reports are made. They could just put it in PDF and just send you something, because there's no way for you to actually um what's it called, like you can't check on it because you don't know how to do it. It's
How did you convince yourself to spend $500 a month on SEO, knowing that you probably wouldn't see the results immediately, and then even going to 2,000?
so the way I figured it out was I couldn't understand I couldn't understand why my website wasn't loading up in the first pages of Google when you're doing a search, and I needed to make that happen, because when I search for stuff on Google, I don't go to page 3 or 4 or 5 to go look for stuff. I choose stuff on the first 2 pages, right? And in my head, I kind of knew that if I don't show up on the first couple of pages, like, it's pointless. Like, I'm not gonna show up, right? And so I knew I had to spend some money in there, and $500 a month, that's a lot. That's a car payment, you know. So it took a while for me to spend some money on that, but it also took a while for me to find somebody that I trust enough to do it.
And how did you find this person?
The person that I did, I'm sorry, the person that did my website was the person that I started to pay more to do my SEO work. And then once they stopped doing SEO work, I went on to a website to find a person that does um, SEO. Just that's just their specialty. And then that's when I started paying them more.
What website did you go to, man? We're here to drop jewels, man. What website did you go to?
There's a website called Upwork. I'm sure you know about that website, right? Everybody knows about the website. On Upwork, what it is it's a website for you to find people to do jobs for you. You can do all sorts of jobs, like Photoshop jobs. You could do phone greetings jobs. You could do SEO work, marketing work. You can do all sorts of stuff on there. Whatever you need, you just go to Upwork. This is not a sponsored call, by the way, and Upwork, if you want to sponsor this. But anyway, but it took me like 3 or 4 different SEO guys to finally pinpoint the guy that I worked with,
Mhm.
because he also dealt with website stuff. So what I did was I got him working on some of my website stuff for a while, and he was very responsive, and he did a great job. And then that's when I started doing SEO with him. And again, very responsive, did a great job, showed me reports like every other day or so, telling me like what I should have keywords in and whatnot. But yeah, that's kind of how I went to it. It's just more of a rapport that you
Mhm.
build with people, that you start trusting them.
So it looks like you leveled up your game. Having your business now with the $60,000 a year range. So the SEO bringing you up in the search engines, right?
Yeah.
And that's what started bringing you more and more traffic, and was able to help you, I guess, get more leads.
Yes.
Is sound about right?
Yep.
All right. How did that process look like when you were getting leads coming in? Right? They fill out a form on your website. Were they calling you? How did that work?
So I do a lot of my stuff only emails. I rarely ever call anybody, right? I know a lot of people in their sales pitches, they want to call people, they want to have that personal rapport right up front. But I was getting so many inquiries, I didn't have that time. And I'm a one man show almost, right? I honestly didn't do phone calls for the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 years and going. Because everything can be done through email. If you can communicate in a way where your client understands you, show visual samples and stuff, there's no need for phone conversations. Honestly, there isn't. Um, Unless you get into the bigger clients where they need conferences and meetings and stuff where they need to go over stuff where it can't be written down, then yeah, definitely give them a call.
What kind of information were you gathering on your form that they were sending into you?
I mean, you kind of have to know the basic stuff. How many hours they are, where's it located, what it is that they're looking for, prints, do they want props? Like, you just have to get all the basic information. And then once it gets sent in, then I just kind of have a conversation with them about it instead of just giving them my prices.
So you're having a conversation via email. So they submit that form that gives you that all that information, and then you submit to them back what? Like a list of like one quote? Are you sending multiple quotes? What does that initial response from you look like?
Yeah, so it's just one quote. Like, I would talk to them about, how excited I am about let's just talk about a wedding. Or if they say, we're going to have a wedding at this place, I'll build rapport and be like, hey, that place is amazing. I was just there like last weekend. You should try doing this and this and this, just kind of building like a slow rapport. And eventually we get to the pricing of it at the end, after, the back and forth, to build a little bit of personal communication with them.
About how many emails before you actually get to the pricing?
I would say 3-4 emails or so.
Okay. So the first email comes in and it's, hey, this is my event and this is what I'm looking for.
Yep.
The email that you send is, hey, really looking forward to working with you guys. You should try the lobster bisque at such and such location.
Pretty much. Yeah.
I mean, what does that email look? What else is in that email that's eliciting or soliciting a response from them so that you can keep the conversation going?
Well, you ask them a lot of open-ended questions instead of like yes or no questions to try to get them to respond to certain things. I don't know of any specifics at the meantime, but yeah, it's just more so of just trying to get them to give you more detail.
Like, what type of detail are you looking for?
Let's say if you want to ask, like, how many people do you have coming? We just want to make sure we have enough, clients there, or enough techs there, or assistants, operators, to help with the crowd. Wanted to see if you guys wanted any kind of album sharing, or we have TV slideshows and stuff like that. We're just trying to present them a lot of options and trying to see if they kind of budge on those little options, or if they have something to say about it.
And all the while, there's no numbers being discussed yet.
Right, no numbers yet.
And then once they've kind of settled on, hey, okay, this is the configuration that I'm looking for, then what happens?
After they give me some kind of configuration or the options that they want, after they give me the options that they want, then what I'll do is I'll create a quote. I used to use this website called Wave Apps to create invoices to send out. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much it. It's that simple. Half of the people are going to book you because of the pricing. The other half are going to book you because they like you. It's kind of how sales are. Well, let me just say, more than half is going to book you because of your pricing, but the other half is going to book you because of your quality.
So at what point in your photo booth journey did you hit six figures? Was it pre-iHeartRadio, or is iHeart what helped you take you to six figures?
It's definitely iHeart helped me go to six figures for sure.
How did you get to iHeart?
So that was a weird situation with iHeart because they contacted me randomly, right? They found me online, SEO. They contacted me because their client, the person that they had, kind of backed out on what they wanted to do because they couldn't do it. So the lead production person contacted me. I had no idea who this person was. And she's like, hey, I had this client. We were going to do this event. And it was actually in Austin. We're going to do this event. We need this, this, and this. And their sponsor actually was The Voice. So that was pretty much like one of my biggest gigs at that point in time. When they got me on site and they had their clients. So you have to think about it. iHeartRadio is the middle person, all right? And then they have their boss, which is their sponsor. So on site, I was communicating with their sponsor, giving the sponsor what they want. So you have to make that person happy to make everybody happy, pretty much, right? And they just loved the way that I'd handled that client because I was doing everything. They were making changes for 2 hours straight, wanting to change position of the camera. They wanted to change overlay right on site. They wanted to change like the sharing stations of words that are getting shared once they people get their photos and stuff. We're talking about changes for 2 hours back to back to back to back. And so basically I did everything that they want. I recommended some things, and the things that I recommended made sense, and it kind of made them stop giving changes. And it was like, and I guess in their mind they're like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. Here's the outcome. Oh, this looks great. We're glad he's here to make these changes and do what we ask, and at the end recommend the right choices. And I think that's why I stuck out.
So iHeartRadio found you through the hard work and investment that you were doing through SEO.
Yeah.
And they brought you in to do an event with The Voice. So what was the role that iHeartRadio played in all of this? I know you said that they're the middleman, but were they the one throwing the event?
Yeah. It was iHeartRadio Country Fest when it first started. Yeah. So it was an actual concert when it first started.
Okay.
And they just contacted somebody local.
So they had, I guess they had sponsorship packages, right, with their sponsors, and one of them was The Voice.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the sponsorship package included a photo booth, it looks like.
Yep.
Somebody backed out, and then they found you to step in.
Right.
Okay. So I mean, I would assume that that's how most of your relationship with iHeart works, is that they're throwing an event, they have their sponsorship packages that they push to their sponsors that includes a photo booth or some type of photo experience, and then they bring you in to execute. Does that sound about right?
Pretty much it. Yeah. It's a little bit different now that I'm in so deep with them, that they contact me first to see what I could do on a creative side, and then they take the things that I can do and they push it to their sponsors. So now it's kind of backwards.
So you're more like a marketing agency for them at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. All right. So they come to you looking for ideas, and then they pitch your ideas of what you can perform or provide within their sponsorship packages, and they let their sponsors choose from there.
Yeah.
At that point, when you started breaching six figures through this iHeartRadio collaboration, what kind of new challenges did you face?
The new challenges basically are trying to be creative every year, or every time there's a new event, try to do something different. Once something comes out, everybody that's in the industry jumps on the same thing and it gets saturated, and then we have to come up with something new again, and then just so on and so forth. And it's hard to be creative every time. That's the problem that I have, because in my company there's only a couple people that come up with ideas, and one of those couple people is me, and sometimes I have creative blocks. It's just hard to always try to be creative.
Other than doing mushrooms, how do you push your creative down, your creative juices?
Other than doing mushrooms and just sitting on the john thinking, that is where I do most of my creative thinking, is on the toilet.
Listen, you have to call it by its proper name. It's the porcelain throne.
That porcelain throne, yes, that. And if you guys ever go out with me and I'm on there for like 30 minutes, it's because I'm thinking, not pushing, just thinking.
So not pushing. So how do you stay creative? What do you do to keep your creativity ahead of the game?
So creativity can pretty much come from anywhere. Anytime I have a gig that requires this, and this, what I do is I ask my friends, just random friends, hey, we have this, and this. What would you do for this, and this? And sometimes they'll say a word, right? They'll say penguins. We could do something with penguins. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, I could take that penguin and do this, and this, and this. And that's kind of how I've been doing it for the past 8 years.
What other major clients, right, did you pick up outside of iHeartRadio, right? Once you kind of hit that six-figure range, and how did you attract them?
A lot of my clients aren't the actual sponsor itself. A lot of my clients are production companies. So the production companies kind of plays the same part as iHeart, where they're the middle person. They're the person making the build outs. The production company is making like the staging. So if you go to a concert and let's say you see a photo, like a booth, right? And in the booth they have, like, let's say if there's a big snow globe of in a photo booth taking a photo of it. I'm sure the photo booth is not the person that is bringing that snow globe. It's a production company that comes in and makes that snow globe the way that it is, or a person that makes the backdrop. That's the production company. So a lot of clients, they hire production companies to deal with making stuff, staging, all of that. And those are the people that I work with mostly.
And how do they find you? Is this all still through SEO, or how? Yeah, how are they picking you up?
It is SEO. There's a number of ways that you can they will find you, right? There's two ways. One is through iHeartRadio. Even though they're the middle person, they also have to have production team to create their backgrounds and stuff like that. So they introduce me to these production teams, and these production teams are asking for my help for other things other than iHeart, and then that's how we create a connection, because they see the work that I do currently with the customer that we have together, and they're like, hey, maybe we can use him for something else that we're doing with another client. And that's kind of how it always works, just by networking. But for the most part, yeah, it's all, a lot of it's networking, a lot of it is SEO, a lot of it is just just meeting these people on site when you're doing other jobs. There's not one particular way for you to get in contact with these people. I'm not out there looking for production companies to work with. They're contacting me, and after I work my first event, then they're pretty much hooked after that.
You kind of stated what's obvious, but I think that also a lot of people overlook. You get one customer, you do the best job possible with that one customer, and that customer is then able to plug you within to their network to get you even more customers at that same level that they're at.
That's right. It's all about the plug. You just don't know who the plug is. So you treat everybody.
Bars.
You treat everybody the same way.
And even continuing on with that relationship piece, you've also said that white labeling and working with your peers has also been a contributing or large contributing factor to helping your photo booth business grow. Can you tell me more about that?
So in order to get to white labeling, right, you have to have friends in the industry that trust you with your quality of work, right? For example, if you had a photo booth and you can't do it, and I'm in the area and you needed me to do it, but you're not going to tell me to do it unless you trust me enough or you know my quality of work. So if you want to get into the whole white labeling part of it, you're going to have to show out and give people the best that you can do, and show them what that quality is that you can perform to. It is definitely something that has helped, make my numbers soar as far as sales goes. I do a lot of white labeling for people, but on top of that, I also do a lot of white labeling where people work for me under my company name as well. So it kind of goes both ways, but that is definitely another way for you to make money in an area that you don't work in. Because, people are always like, oh, I can't get that pricing in my area, right? You get that a lot. Oh, this guy's lowballing in my area. Well, guess what, guys? I barely work in my area. I work in everybody else's area, right? The whole U.S. is my area. Like, if you can't get what you think you want to get in your area, get out of that area. Try to look for it for somewhere else. A lot of people are trying to charge, like, they're trying to lowball themselves to get a pricing of what they think it is worth in that area. Well, I white label stuff for almost 2 times more than what you get it for 1 hour in that area. So there's money to be made. You just have to, put some elbow grease on it and do a little hustling, work outside the area that you think has such a small number, and think of other ways to make money.
And speaking of a lot of ways to make money, Min, I know you're short on time, so I want to wrap it up with this final question here. So what is it for you that finally pushed you into the 7-figure realm within the photo booth industry?
So I do a lot of things, and I try not to put all my eggs in the same basket. So we do photo booths, we do 360s, we do a lot of stuff, but activations, right? But on top of that, not only did I do that, I also started a company called Yo Props and we started the whole prop company making, and also started making photo booths as well, which are called Min booths. I'm sure you guys have heard it around or so. But what I did was I made these. How I started making the props was I started making it for myself, and I started showing it out, online in these forums and whatnot, and people started liking them, and they started wanting to buy them, and then that's how I got started on that. Right, and the same thing happened with the photo booths. I started making photo booths for myself because I didn't like any of the ones that were out there. People started liking it. Other people started asking if they can buy it. And then that's how I started selling. So you just kind of have to get creative with how to make money, but there's a lot of ways, a lot of new things. Like there are new technologies that keep on popping up in the photo booth industry. You just have to be on top of it and, be a little bit creative. Many, many different ways to make money in this industry, guys. Many different ways.
Big facts, big facts. A lot of different ways to make money as a photo booth entrepreneur. Whether you're in the industry, starting your photo booth journey for the first time, or you're getting back into it as a result of COVID kind of kicking us all in the pants and resetting. If you are looking for more information about Minh and Keopix, you can check them out at keopix.com. That is KEOPIX.com. And if you're looking for photo booth education and some software options to run your business, you can check us out at pickpicksocial.com. This is our first episode, but it definitely won't be our last. So make sure you subscribe and check out the next podcast.
All right, Peace. That sounds good, my bro.